Boom! You should now have the notice.
I can see it.
Boom. We can see the light. Sweet. Hello. Welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I am your host, John Harris. On my right-hand side is my right-hand man, Gabriel.
It's time to grow to summits.
It's time to go to the summit, baby.
No, I said glow to the summit.
Glow to the summit. Absolutely. We're going to glow to the summit in 3 parts. Today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have Countless Skies. They've got a new album called Glow, which is going to be released on November 6th via Willow Tip Records. Right now, I'm being joined by Ross to share more information about what the boys have been up to, what they've got coming along. We're going to chat about a couple of tracks off this magnificent album. So, Ross, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you on. And, the funny thing is, Ross, as I was listening to the album and I was engulfed in the album, and I was trying to think of, because you guys sound like absolutely something 100% unique, but always there's going to be, one or two bands that kind of poke in and I go, it kind of sounds like this. But you guys did such a good job of melding everything together. The only thing I could think of was Insomnium and one other band, and it's like on the tip of my tongue, but I don't know.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, we often get likened to Insomnium, as you can imagine. Also Bellacore as well. I don't know if you've heard of that band as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But specifically with this album, at least, like the bands that we've sort of tried to explain the new sound with would be Insomnium, Devin Townsend as well.
Okay.
And then we've got a bit of an influence from instrumental bands like Pliny, if you've heard of him, guitarist.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then finally a bit of sort of a post-black metal influence from like bands like Alcest as well. So that's kind of the blend that we've tried to create here. Hopefully it's not too obvious, the influences, but yeah.
Well, the funny thing is you mentioned Pliny, and one of the things that I was thinking was like monuments or archetypes or, one of the, I guess, I don't know, is it Degenti? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, sort of like, proggy, instrumental, progressive sort of stuff. Yeah, we're definitely big fans of that sort of sound there.
Okay. Now, I'm curious, when you said, that's the blend that we were going for, is that kind of like a post facto when people say, tell me about your band, you guys just decided this was the elevator pitch, or when
Pretty
you guys
much,
were when you were going into the album? Okay.
Well, we kind of just do what we want, really, when it comes to writing. We don't really have like a strict set of rules or anything like that. I mean, we just sort of come up with riffs and then we sort of bounce them off each other and see what fits, how we can fit stuff together. And it's more of like a post analysis really when we're actually sort of trying to describe it to people. It's more what we came up with rather than what we were aiming for.
Mm-hmm. Now, something that I mentioned is that sometimes I like going through the credits because you guys have some remarkable credits here, and I just wanted to do a quick shout out that the cello, piano, and choir are not fake like they could have been. Yeah. So we wanted to get some more people involved this time around because you can have layers and layers of virtual instruments on an album, but we knew some pretty damn good musicians and singers, and we wanted to get them involved. So we got Ariana, who's an amazing cellist we know. We got a few of our friends from other bands. So we've got Anthony Trimming from Vehement, which is an awesome black metal band from down south. We got our friend RJ Learmouth from an incredible melodeath band called Raise the Void. They're from over in Essex. And then we got a lady called Vicky Harley, who's an operatic singer from up north in near Manchester. And then finally we got Marcello, who was actually our old keyboardist in our original band Hatespire. We got him back to play the piano this time. Okay. Now, I'm really curious when it comes to the 3 people that you have for the choir. Were they all brought together to actually sound like a choir, or did you guys just layer them individually and then bring it in post?
Well, so our good friend Chris Stroud helped us to record the choir, so he helped us organize it all. And one thing he told us was that you can't get a choir sound if you just layer vocal tracks on top of each other. It's actually the reverberation of the individuals singing waveforms, I guess, that are clashing off of each other in a room together that makes that choir sound, like proper choir sound.
Yep.
So what we did was we went to our guitarist James's house and we stuck some foam on the walls, and we got a bit creative and like stuck a duvet over a clove sauce and stuff, and just basically tried to pad out the room a bit. And then we got some microphones one end of the room, we all stood the other, and our friend Chris on James's Mac that he used to record the album, where he brought downstairs, was sitting there recording us. And we I think we duct taped the lyrics written on a piece of cardboard to the wall, the other side of the room, and we just recorded some choir. We did a few takes. It took a few hours, but I think overall it was worthwhile, and we had a lot of fun with it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like gang vocal day.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and we had a big meal together in the kitchen. It was great.
Beautiful. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out as well is it looks like you guys did quite a bit of recording it either with different people or at different places. So like the drums were recorded and it looks like by one studio, and obviously the choir like you just mentioned, and then everything else done looks like by James Pratt, and then mixed and mastered by looks like a wonderful Finnish young man. So I guess I'm curious what went into, or I guess my question is, what was it about this album that made it feel like all these moving parts needed to come together?
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess through the years and through the different people that we've worked with, we've slowly sort of come to trust and to know certain people in the industry that we know we can get 100% from, we get top quality from. So we've met these people along the way, and we sort of thought this time we want to take things up a notch. We've really worked hard on the music that we've written, and we want to give it the best possible sound that we can this time. And so with our single that we released last called Tempest, we went down to Brighton and we recorded the drums there in the same place with the guy called Forbes at his studio called Audio Beach, and the sound was just ridiculous. We couldn't believe how good his drum recordings were, so we knew that we had to go back to him for this album, and I'm sure that we'll probably return for the next one. And then with the mixing and mastering, when we were working on our previous album New Dawn, we were originally going to go through Dan Swano, if you've heard of him, and we were in talks with him. But when we actually got to the studio, my mistake really, I didn't think to get the studio engineer and Dan Swano in contact, because I didn't know whether they would actually need to coordinate. And it turns out that Dan Swano was actually expecting all of the drums to be triggered, and we were going to record them all live. HVR Studios, it was called, where we recorded New Dawn. So literally sat in the studio, and I was like, oh, by the way, we're going to get this guy to mix and master it. And he's like, that's the first you've told of me. I was like, sorry. And he emailed him, found it out, and then we had this mad rush to find someone else to mix and master New Dawn. I ended up looking up who was doing the mixing and mastering for Wolfheart and Blood Red Hourglass, who were some top Melodeath bands over in Finland, and stumbled upon this guy called Juho, we got chatting, and we've been working with him since, and he's done an exceptional job. And I think he's really outdone himself with Glow. Like, New Dawn was great, but Glow, his quality there is incredible. And we gave him the opportunity to reamp the guitars as well, so the guitar tones are much better on this album as well, I think.
Okay, that's actually one of my other questions. Is it's a very unique guitar tone, and since you mentioned doing some recording at home on a laptop, I was curious, without giving away too much, I'm kind of always curious when people come out with really good guitar tone. Sometimes it's just a plug-in and they just tweaked it until it sounded really good. And other times it's a reamp, and I'm just kind of always curious, especially the way bands are able to do things in today's day and age. Before, it used to sound like a home recording, 10 years ago or whatever. Now it really doesn't. So I'm curious to hear more about the guitar tone, if you don't mind.
Sure. So when we were recording the album in James's house, he's got a spare room now, which he's set up as a studio. So he's got an iMac. So it's not a laptop; it is a desktop machine, and that's wired into a Focusrite audio interface. So he's got like a rack now, like a server rack almost, underneath his desk, where he's got this Focusrite audio interface that we used for the vocals maybe something else, I can't remember. But he's also got an Axe Effects, which he's been using to record all the guitars through. So we're using that, and he's created his own patches to have his own tones. But in the end, when we did hand it over to Yuho, he ended up reamping the guitars. And in all honesty, I don't know what he did there, but it sounds incredible. So maybe it's his little secret, or maybe I should just ask him. But yeah, that's Yuho working his magic.
Cool. Now, something you mentioned there, Ross, was that you guys had worked really hard on the music that was written, and not to suggest that, bands don't, but sometimes the story that gets told is, I don't know, I just came up with a lick, and 20 minutes later, the song was written. It kind of just wrote itself. But it doesn't really sound like maybe that happened here, or maybe the inspiration was just followed a little bit longer. But something I mentioned earlier in the beginning was how seamless the whole thing sounds. It doesn't just sound like you guys went, oh, let's do a carbon copy of what else is out there. Let's do something new, original, and make it seamless. So I'm curious, when you guys sat down to write this album, what were you guys going for?
Well, yeah, it's sort of hard to sort of give you a sort of a definite answer with that, because, well, for one, the album literally the writing spanned across about 4 years, and some of it was written even before then, and some of it was written right up at the deadline, basically. So to sort of give you a specific answer to that would be quite hard, but I could tell you about some of the songs. For instance, Summit and the title track Glow, they're songs that are completely written by James. So he's sat down and completely crafted and created those entire songs. But songs like Tempest and Moon and Zephyr were sort of collaborations from all of us, mostly me and James, but there have been sort of inclusions from the other guys where they've sort of worked with a riff or changed things up a bit. But yeah, yeah, that's kind of how that worked. Yeah, with Zephyr, that intro riff is actually something that we wrote maybe 8 or 9 years ago when we were just messing around on guitar, and we sort of picked it up again, and James sort of worked on turning it into an entire song. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. I've just been rambling. Yeah, no, it absolutely doesn't. I'm kind of always curious, when it takes, say, 8-9 years for one riff and kind of 4 years in total to work on the entire record. And you mentioned up to the deadline. So were you guys always planning to release this with Willowtip, or how did they get involved in the process then? Because I don't know, do record labels wait around for 4 years? Yeah. So yeah, you wouldn't think so, no. But thankfully, what happened was we released the single Tempest a couple of years ago, and it was around then that Willowtip got in contact with us. So they sort of said that they were really big fans of the music that we were making, and that they wanted to work with us to release an album. And so we got in touch with them then and got into talks. And yeah, we sort of worked out a deal with them. And one of the things they said to us, which was really kind, was that there isn't any rush with the music. They said, we'd rather that you came back to us with something that you're 100% behind, rather than you feel the pressure to rush something out. So yeah, they waited a couple of years, but we hope that they're pleased with what we handed over in the end.
I mean, that's kind of like every band's dream right there, especially if there's any bands listening in right now or people who are in bands and they're saying, you mean you released a song and a record label reached out to you? You didn't have to shop around and get rejected?
Yeah, I can't say that we really tried that either. It's quite a terrifying notion, really.
Yeah, okay. Well, obviously, and thankfully, it was a set of negotiations that worked out for both of you guys. Now, you mentioned that Tempest was the original single, and now the new single is Summit. So I guess I got a two-part question, but we'll start with the first one is, how come Tempest made it to the album? Why not just leave that as the single as it was and then just move on?
Well, I guess with each album that we've released so far, they've kind of been a snapshot of where we've been in life as a band. So Tempest is sort of part of the collection of songs that make up Glow, and it would feel really strange to leave it behind, to be honest. It's the same thing we did with the single Solace. So back in 2015, we won a competition, like a local Battle of the Bands, and we won a slot at like the biggest independent metal festival in the UK, which is called Bloodstock Open Air, which is an amazing festival, by the way. And we got to play on their smallest stage there, but we'd only released an EP, and we wanted to have like something to draw people in, a new song. So we rushed. We expedited a single from the album, went to a studio and recorded it properly and stuff so we could release it, and that was Solace. And then that was out for about a year before the album New Dawn came out. So like it was that same sort of situation where we sort of gave people a preview of what was to come, but we didn't necessarily want to leave it in the past. We wanted it to be part of the whole album when it did come out. So yeah, Tempest for me, I see that as part of Glow. I couldn't imagine leaving that behind.
Okay. Now, I guess my next question, this is kind of part of the two-part question, is why then was Summit then released as a lead single off of Glow?
Sure. Obviously Tempest already released, so I'm not sure anyone would have been impressed if we tried to re-release that one. And then we sat and thought about the other songs. So obviously Glow, 20-minute song, probably not the best thing to use as a lead single. Zephyr is a nice track, but it's kind of quite a different variation and blend of things, and I wouldn't want to use that as the lead. We were thinking about potentially releasing Moon as the lead single, but we just thought that Summit just had such an impact from the beginning, and it was sort of our opportunity to reintroduce ourselves and to sort of show people what we've been doing, and we thought Summit sort of summed that up perfectly.
Okay, very cool stuff. Now I'm looking at the tracks, all one title words. Is it kind of a concept? Yep. Does it take us through a story, like an arc?
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I did sort of pitch that idea to James, but he was very sort of committed to Glow itself, the title track being like that. But the other songs, they are separate. They're their own thing, really. But we've tried to pace the album, I guess. We've tried to put the more sort of faster up-tempo things at the beginning and let it sort of get more sort of slower and progressive towards the end. Okay.
Very cool. And then with regard to Glow being a 3-part song, I don't even know if I really have a question about that other than I'm just curious, because obviously the album is called Glow, so you're just stretching it out. It's like an orgasm. You're just making it last longer.
Yeah, I guess you could put it that
way. I guess maybe just take us through that. Was the album called Glow because of this 3-part song, or did you guys stretch it out into a 3-part song because the album was called Glow? Chicken or the egg?
Well, the intro to Glow, I think that was probably one of the first riffs that we wrote off of this new album. We were just jamming around in practice, playing around with some sort of tappy riffs, and James was just like, wait a minute, I'm going to record it. And so he got his phone out, and then we just sort of jammed this riff out, and then he said, oh yeah, I think I'm going to turn this into a song. I was like, cool, all right. And then a few weeks later he came back to us with this like 20-minute long thing. I was like, what the hell? I mean, I guess it probably wasn't 20 minutes at that point. It took him a while to sort of flesh it out and to sort of refine it, but that's kind of where that came from originally.
Okay, very, very cool stuff. Now, with regard to the album coming out in November, was it always going to be that way, or has this year reorganized and changed a few things for you guys?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we thought maybe we might get it out a little bit earlier, but one of the things was because this time we're doing vinyls, so I think there was a bit of a delay with the factories because of all the things that are happening in the world at the moment. So it's been pushed back to November, but thankfully that's sort of the only real delay that we've had. I guess that with this kind of music, so many people will reach for it all over the internet that I think you can sort of release music. Even though people can't get out and go to shows and stuff, it still gets a pretty good following and pretty good exposure through people just sharing it online, really.
Okay, very cool. All right, I'm trying to think if I have any other questions, and I don't really think that I do, so I'm just going to ask, is there anything that I did not ask or bring up that you wanted to chat about?
No, but I mean, I can add a couple more things on top if you like.
Please do.
Sure. So with the new album, we've got a whole load of new merch. So for the first time ever, we're doing vinyls. We've gotten this amazing orange vinyl that we're selling on our Bandcamp and on the Willowtip store. There's also another option, which is like a random mixed of colors, like a marble effect vinyl. So they're quite limited as well. So if you fancy one, you can go to our website, countlessskies.com, and you can see all of the links to the merch there. We've got T-shirts, long sleeves, and hoodies as well, I think. And yeah, that all comes out 6th of November. And then I would talk about like a tour or gigs or something, but obviously that's not happening for a little while at the moment. But we are booked in to be playing at a festival called Metal Days, which is in Slovenia. And that's incredible over there. That's a week-long metal festival. And they have a warm-up event, which is called New Metal Festival, on the Saturday and Sunday before it starts. And we're going to be co-headlining the Sunday night of that warm-up festival. And then also we played Bloodstock Festival again last year on the bigger stage. And there's a live video of that on YouTube that you can watch that we posted on our Facebook recently as well.
Perfect. And I guess with regard to that, are you guys doing any online concerts or any online jams or anything like that?
We'd definitely love to. So I guess what we're waiting for is perhaps closer to when the album comes out, if not exactly around that time. But yeah, we're just sort of looking at the options and seeing what we can do and seeing if even small shows will be opening up again then or not. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'd love to do something like that. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on our social media, and we'll definitely be plugging that if that happens. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, Ross, that concludes all of my questions. So thank you so much for coming on to the Rock and Roll Podcast today.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me.